So awesome. Thank you so much, Sid, for setting that off. Hello and welcome all. As we just heard, we are recording tonight's information session. Welcome to the Bronx River Alliance's mini grant information session for 2024. We are really excited. My name is Nathan Hunter. I'm with the Bronx River Alliance's Foodway program, and I'm excited to be joined by Sid Mawani, who runs our Greenway program. And together we are kind of guiding this process this year to offer up some mini grants, some small kind of micro grants to facilitate to pay facilitators in our community to activate our parks, many of which are already doing the work. And so this is just an opportunity to plug in.
Very quickly, some background information on the Bronx River Alliance. If you are unfamiliar with some of the history, here's our mission right here. It's the Bronx River Alliance serves as a coordinated voice for the river. We work in harmonious partnership to protect, improve, and restore the Bronx River corridor. Our goal is to make a healthy ecological, recreational, educational, and economic resource for all communities through which the river flows. And we do think this mini grant program we're about to talk about can help us hit a lot of those goals and get us there.
Exactly. Thank you. And these mini grants are really, Sid and myself are some of our team chairs. And we want to take a second to acknowledge and kind of describe what these advisory teams are. So you may have heard of the ecology team, and we are representing, again, the Greenway team and the Foodway team. Our advisory teams are true to the mission of the Bronx River Alliance from their beginning as grassroots community organizing. The teams are really community members, regular community members who help drive the priorities and activities of our areas of work, whether it's restoring ecology, developing the Greenway, or expanding the Foodway itself. And these teams are open to the public. Some of us hold quarterly meetings, others hold monthly meetings, but either way, we hold usually space regularly where people can plug in and get updates. And then also there's opportunities for leadership and decision-making within those spaces. So we encourage you to learn more about the teams. And we look at this grant process as being a part of the Bronx River Alliance Teams program.
All right, so we're here today to talk about the mini grants program, which we're very excited to be running this year. There's been some form of it done in the past. This is probably the biggest involvement we've had in a mini grant program with both the Greenway and the Foodway program administering these this year. So something to keep in mind at the beginning is that this is kind of a pilot program. We're also working to figure out exactly how we can best run this program this year and in the future. But to summarize, a mini grant is a paid opportunity to run events that align with our themes and programs. We definitely provide some administrative support, like posting your event on our website, helping with the or showing you how to do the permit process and applications and things like that, so that you're ready to do this on your own and facilitate your own sorts of programs, and help you and assist you with developing the program and making sure that it aligns with our missions. And then the decisions, as we go through the applications, will be made by Bronx River Alliance staff and community members and co-chairs that have been part of these advocacy teams. And obviously, here we are at the April 1st information session.
So, as we keep describing, you're going to hear like what's happening with the Foodway grants, what's happening with the Greenway grants, and we want to kind of decipher or differentiate because they are slightly different. And so I'm going to kind of go in quickly about an overview of the Foodway grants and kind of offer a little more context. So obviously the proposals for Foodway grants should be centered around the Bronx River Foodway, really centered around themes of nutrition, movement, environment. It could be around history. The locations for this could exist along the Bronx River, but obviously the Bronx River Foodway project is located in Concrete Plant Park, where a lot of our activations and foodway centric programming takes place. This grant opportunity or the proposal should fall between May and October of this year. So that's essentially our deadline, as you can see, is April 15th. So it's pretty quick after. If you're looking to submit for a May proposal, I'm having a pretty, I think, concise idea. The idea is really to facilitate a one to 2 hour workshop, and I like to kind of name within that hour and a half to 2 hours. That should include your in my mind, that includes your setup and your breakdown. So as you're planning and as you are preparing for this, just kind of include that kind of time into your workshop. I think that's important, especially because $200 is not that much, and I really would love to see this money fund your time as much as it may fund maybe your materials. I guess the last part is really your proposal will, the awards will be announced April 22nd. So folks will learn about your proposals if they're moving forward or not. And in total, there's 10 proposals that will be awarded. So that's 10 $200 proposals. And so there is a finite number. And again, that deadline is April 15th. I'm going to hand it over to Sid to kind of talk about the Greenway program. And again, we're holding space at the end for questions and answers. So throw stuff in the chat and come back at the end.
So what's the Greenway grant? The Greenway mini grants are very similar to the the Foodway and Concrete Plant Park mini grants. The themes vary a little bit. We definitely have a focus on community connections, recreation, and history as well, in addition to movement and the environment. And ideally, this really takes place anywhere along the Bronx River. We have stronger support networks within New York City, but can also work to support applications that take place in Westchester along the 2/3 of the river that run all the way up to Valhalla and past White Plains. So yeah, really anywhere along the Bronx River, including Concrete Plant Park and all the little ones that may be spotted. The workshop range is also in a similar time frame. It's June through October of this year. Where this kind of starts to differ is that we have a bit of a range for the grant amounts, and with that, some flexibility in timing. For example, we've had an applicant for a bird watching adventure, so that might take a few more than 2 hours. So we have a range of grants from $100 to $300. And up to $3,000 in the Greenway grant. So up 10 or more events, depending on the types of programs that are selected. And so, a lot of different potential ways to get involved along the Greenway. We do have a rolling application deadline, just so that we can facilitate events that people kind of come up with throughout the season, especially later in the fall. When it's, it cools down a bit. So all we ask is that the application form is submitted 45 days prior to the workshop so we can facilitate the administrative side of all that. So keep that in mind when submitting Greenway applications.
So again, just kind of reiterating where workshop locations can exist. Foodway programming or proposals can exist inside of Concrete Plant Park. They can exist outside of that. But as you can see in the top right image, that is the main area where we activate, because that is where the physical Bronx River Foodway exists. As you can see in these other images, folks are activating all different parts of the river. You can see in the bottom right, yoga happening at Starlight Park. You can see a nature walk happening at the very top of the Bronx corridor at Shoelace Park. And so, yeah, it can extend everywhere. And as Sid mentioned, this could exist in Westchester County along the Bronx River in a park that maybe we currently do not activate or serve. And I think that would be a new foray for us. And so we'd be excited to kind of explore that with you. But obviously lots of support for the southern watershed.
Does my workshop have an event capacity? Yeah, we do ask that facilitators are able to keep group size below 25. Um, if you have any specific questions, you should note them in your application for sure, regarding size of potential size of a program. But yes, 25 is an ideal limit to the workshop capacity. And then I see we have a question in the chat to, for can a community garden along the river apply and host an event there? Um, so I do think, I don't know, Nathan, if you have any more information on this, but I do think it has to be along specifically, like within the Parks District along the Bronx River corridor, but we can double check that and see it if it makes sense, depending on how far away you are from the river.
Yeah, I think we're pretty open-minded, and I think as long as the themes and the concepts are centering around the Bronx River stories and like the Bronx River activations, yeah, I think we're open to having that conversation. Um, do I need to submit a permit for my workshop? Yes, we will need to submit permits, and we do want to support you all in that process. A lot of people find the permit process daunting at first, or just a new process, right? And it can be a little scary. So we we want to walk it through with you. Um, typically, the park's special events permits, which is what we're going to be filling out, does charge you. There's a fee associated, a $25 fee. Because we are an alliance that is associated in partnership with the Parks Department, we are able to waive that fee. So for this mini grant program, we'll waive these fees. But the way we would like to go through kind of this permit process is just kind of walking you through it if you've never done it before, and then essentially submit the permit with you. So that way you can understand the process, and those that are eager to lead more workshops on your own, post this experience, you can understand how that process works.
We briefly mentioned the deadlines before, but to reiterate, the deadline for Foodway mini grant submissions is April 15th, which is 2 weeks from today. And Greenway mini grant submissions will be reviewed on a rolling basis with earlier applications given priority.
And we mentioned this as well. There's gonna be a lot of redundancy, but we mentioned this earlier as well. These awards will be announced for the Foodway at least on April 22nd, Earth Day, and for the Greenway submissions, 45 days before the preferred program dates. And then obviously, as it's written here, and it was mentioned before, earlier priority will be given to applications submitted before Memorial Day, so that way we can prepare and set it up for the season. But as Sid has offered, you know, there is a rolling admission, or rolling submission rather.
So what happens after you submit your application? Depending on which program your workshop aligns with and what you submit for, either Nathan will contact you with regards to Foodway programming, or I will contact you with regards to Greenway programming, and we'll set up a time to discuss some of the specifics directly, and work through scheduling and outreach support, administrative support, etc.
Is there an age requirement for facilitators submitting proposals? Yes, we are asking that facilitators are 18 or older, but we, I think, don't discourage maybe bringing along a younger person who might want to be learning how to facilitate. I think it's exciting to see younger folks or intergenerational moments where younger folks are learning how to facilitate and lead workshops similarly to you know, folks 18 or older. But we are kind of capping it at 18 years of age.
Probably the most technical part of this Q&A, but how do you receive payment for the workshop? The grant, the $200, $100 to $300 for the Greenway program, or the $200 for the Foodway program, will be provided to you through a check after the completion of the workshop. We will need a W-9 tax ID form and an invoice for processing a check. If you've never produced an invoice yourself, we're happy to provide a template and kind of some instructions on how to do it. It is pretty basic, just so anybody who's thinking about it doesn't get overwhelmed. Happy to walk that through with you. I remember when I first made my first invoice, I had no idea how to do it, but it was actually very straightforward. And then if you're using your mini grant for any materials for the workshop itself, we can discuss that in your application. And if it's something that we can provide support with purchasing on our end, then we definitely will. Yeah.
All right, this is our moment to ask some questions. Those that we just kind of went through our FAQ. Yeah, and we wanted to leave you with this slide, a little invitation to come out to our open house, which is happening on Earth Day. So come on out. It's our celebration. You can engage with a lot of our program areas and actually see a lot of the programs that we do on a regular basis. But this is a good moment to pause, and if folks have questions, you're welcome to raise your hand and we can select folks to speak.
And then one last thing to note is we have this events calendar here, which is where we would publish your event as well. You can check it out on our website, bronxriver.org/calendar.
Yes, thank you for saying that. And I see a hand. I see DK, but Sid, help me keep an eye out for the chat as well. So DK, if you would like to. Oh, perfect.
Thank you for the information. I'm aware of some community members who are not able to make tonight's presentation. Where will it be posted so that they can also receive this information?
Thank you for that question. So this will live on our YouTube channel, which is I will drop in the chat, but is youtube.com/Bronx River Alliance. You can also just Google Bronx River Alliance YouTube, and it's the first hit. And we hope to have that uploaded by tomorrow, end of day.
And then in the chat, we have another question. Can two separate facilitators combine to form one big event? No. I think that's a good question. We haven't actually really considered that quite yet. I think the only thing that comes into conflict with is the capacity size that we had potentially, had set a soft limit of 25. But again, I think that's something that should be noted in the application itself. And if the program synergize well, Nathan and myself will likely advocate for making that work.
Yes, I would just ask, alluding to like what Sid just mentioned about capacity, if there's ways that you can describe ways to just ensure like comfort of participants, accessibility for participants. I think about, just like how can you support those participants? I think capacity and making sure that folks have a good experience is something we just want to ensure. So as Sid mentioned.
Next question in the chat, can you apply and receive grants for both programs? Now, there's nothing technically limiting that. However, we hope to get enough applications to spread the mini grants around. From an equity standpoint, we want to have as many people as possible with the opportunity to run their own programs and get paid too. So it is possible, but we will note that we do want to distribute this to as many people as possible. Pass that next question in the chat on to you, Nathan.
All right, I think I saw it. Is there a kitchen available? There is so one of the things that got brought up is if in case of inclement weather, potentially consideration of our office building, which is called Bronx River House, which has a meeting space called the multi-purpose room, which folks can actually rent out and reserve. So that area does have a kitchenette. So I named that, and we have done some interesting collaborative programming in that space. And then I will mention that we have some burners. So one of the things we're offering are some basic materials like tables and tents based on the need. But something I can offer through the Foodway are these small camping cook stoves that are a butane burner. So butane, gas, fuel, and we can lend you that for your program. And I can answer the other questions that I just saw come up from Imelda, I believe, in the chat, which was around the 10. Does each program have 10? So yes, Foodway, definitely we have 10 $200 grants that are being offered. But SIDS, because SID has a wider range, so there could be a couple different permutations. So maybe
about 10. About 10 for each program, potentially more for the Greenway program. Yes. And then Lorenzo, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I wanted to ask something that's a little complex, but basically, so I'm a city employee and it's complicated, but I'm not seeking to get like you know, the grant for to like actually pay for my time or anything. I was hoping to just use that for like the actual event itself, because I've been really wanting to have like an open mic or some kind of like arts kind of programming in the parks, especially in these times, like to be more COVID conscious and stuff and have outdoor events. And I was just wondering, I guess, is there a way, if I'm not applying to the grant for myself in that way to compensate myself, is there something else that I should be doing? Or like collaborating with Bronx River Park, like, yeah, I just wonder if there's something else I should be doing instead of applying to this grant. Check.
I'm happy to kick this off and Sid jump in. I have a couple different thoughts. You name like open mic, and I think there is possibility, I think, for us to partner like Alliance and community member. We've done that in the past. One example is last summer we had community karaoke out of Starlight Park, several Fridays where we supported that. And then I really do think like one of the purposes of this grant program is really to help cultivate and support our community facilitators. Often many of which who are doing the work. And so, yeah, I appreciate you naming this and kind of like talking about what the purpose and differentiation, because I think what you're offering could manifest with the Alliance or with like Concrete Friends, which is the Friends of group for Concrete Plant Park. And maybe collaborating with them or working with them could be an option. So a Friends of group. And then the other idea is like, yeah, maybe you come to a Foodway team meeting and you name that you have these resources. Maybe, I'm not sure, but I think if it's about buying materials, you could technically apply for this grant and do that. It's not limiting you, but I think one of the things we're offering is to support, to minimize how much people are spending this grant on materials, if they don't have to, so that they can also make some money. I hope that helps. Okay, cool. So did you have anything extra to say?
No, not, I mean, a little bit. I'd say that it's definitely, this mini grant program is to kind of formalize a little bit of the involvement process that we've kind of asked of community members and kind of acknowledge how big of a lift it has been in the past for people to be involved. Obviously there are folks who want to be involved no matter what, and we can definitely work to incorporate other ideas that may not fit the term, like the parameters of the mini grant program, into our larger programs or other events or things like that. So while you may not need to apply to this, I do encourage you to, so it's on our radar and we know what you're talking about and we have like a written description of what you're thinking. And if it makes sense to move to a different event, we can talk about that too. We're definitely trying to be as flexible as possible. Do we have any other questions? Did I miss anything in the chat? I don't think so. No, that's all the ones in the chat. Give 15 seconds, just in case anybody comes up with one.
And I think something that goes unsaid, but I will say it out loud. You can always reach out to either of us with any questions in the future. Our emails we can put in the chat before we head out. Oh, and I meant to put the YouTube link in the chat. But yeah, I think like open door policy around questions, and again, the deadline for my programming, at least for the Foodway, is the 15th. So it is 15 days from now. Thank you so much, Sid, for dropping that in the chat. Cool, but any last questions?
All right, thank you, everybody. Enjoy your evening.